Sweden.
It used to be so nice, it used to be so good.
You look at what's happening last night in Sweden.
I tried to reach for you, but you have closed your mind.
Isn't it strange how all the leftists who mocked Trump about his "last night in Sweden" quote are suddenly so quiet about what happened last night in Sweden? Men in a migrant suburb of Stockholm rioted, burned cars and attacked reporters, shopkeepers and police officers because cops arrested a drug dealer. So I put out a challenge for lefties who thought that Sweden's crime-ridden suburbs were safe to visit themselves, prompting a bunch of D-rate celebrities to shamelessly virtue signal about how progressive they are. The kind of people who live in the whitest areas possible and would shit themselves if they went anywhere near an Islamic ghetto. Unlike yours truly, who got chased out of one, Molenbeek, days after the Paris massacre. My challenge was accepted by Tim Pool, who was then told by other left-wing journalists not to investigate Sweden's migrant suburbs. Really? Journalists scared of someone doing journalism. But if Sweden's migrant suburbs are so culturally enriched and safe as you claim, what are you afraid of? The truth? The truth about a country that's so safe it holds the proud honour of being the rape capital of Europe. A country where rapes are so commonplace that migrant culprits laugh at their victims as they report it to the police.
Nej. Nej.
Sweden is on a fast track to disaster.
Nej.
Yes, it's a refugee overload. That's a good word.
I mean, it's so safe that Turkish government newspapers are placing ads warning their citizens about it. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that when television crews visit them to prove that they're safe, they're physically attacked by migrants.
The police leave, and as we prepare to go, young men masking their faces arrive.
Good, you're doing good. You're doing good? Yeah. Okay, very good.
Take it easy.
Okay, you too.
And attack.
Go.
Mate!
Go.
Don't you touch me!
Okay, we're gonna drink.
There's no need to be unkind.
You can't film. You can't film. No, don't do it.
The gang's attention turns when a local intervenes and drives his mobility scooter into the most violent attacker.
We've been individually attacked. Soundman has been punched, the producer's been punched, you've been run over, the cameraman. We've all been assaulted and insulted.
Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that filmmakers fear for their lives as they're assaulted on the street.
While we were setting up a shoot at a neighboring location, we were approached by 5 men and told to leave. While my crew took off, I stayed to simply ask why we had to leave. Because I was still wired, we had the sound of what happened next.
How come it's a problem to film here?
I don't want to be filmed.
I know, but why? What's the why?
I just don't want to.
Spawn, you know. But why?
Let me see. Let me see.
I'm not filming anything. Look.
Show me what you got.
Let go of me.
Show me what you got.
Show me.
Show me your phone.
Let go. I'll show you.
I don't want your phone. Show me.
Let go now.
Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that ambulance workers are demanding riot gear to go anywhere near them. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that Swedish citizens are demanding bulletproof vests while the government tries to ban them. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that there are 55 no-go zones, the vast majority of which are migrant suburbs.
There are now 55 declared no-go zones in Sweden, where police have to escort ambulances to ensure their safety.
Oh, but the police do go there, so how dare you call them no-go zones? Yeah, they go there and they're attacked with rocks and missiles. That's not safe. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that pro-immigration Swedish politicians and celebrities live nowhere near them. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that in some areas, meter maids have just stopped going. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that maintenance companies have refused to service customers who live there. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that some Somali immigrants want to leave because their violence-plagued homeland is safer. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that immigrant-led riots and mass burning of cars is commonplace, including last night in Sweden. Sweden's migrant suburbs are so safe that Malmo is known as Sweden's Chicago. It's one of the most dangerous cities in the whole of Western Europe, with a murder rate higher than Paris and London. Malmo has a foreign population of around 43%, and areas like Rosengård are 90% Muslim. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. 42-year-old police veteran Chief Superintendent Torsten Olofsson says that migrants comprise the majority of people being arrested in the city. He also says that explosions and grenade attacks are routine as a form of intimidation. And Swedes are so pleased with the impact that mass immigration has had on their country that the far-right anti-immigrant Sweden Democrats Party has risen from relative obscurity to be almost #1 in the polls. If there's no problem with mass immigration, why has their support doubled? Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that 53% of prisoners serving long-term sentences in Sweden have a foreign background. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that veteran police officer Peter Springer says that almost every suspect involved in a serious violent crime is called Mohammed or another Islamic name. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that less than 500 out of 160,000 refugees who arrived in 2016 have a job. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that half of all jobless are foreigners. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that 58% of welfare payments go to migrants. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that ISIS flags have been legalized and returning jihadists are being considered for welfare payments. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that migrants are raping women at anti-racism festivals.
Over the past 2 years, dozens of young women, some as young as 12, were raped at these festivals across Sweden by hundreds of young immigrants. They use the tactic where dozens of men surround one or more girls in circles. While the men in the inner circle sexually attacks their victims, the outer circle distracts and keeps out anyone who would stop it. The attacks have become so common that some bands, most notably Mumford & Sons, refuse to play in Sweden.
This has happened multiple times and to multiple victims. Then the issue is that when it is reported, this was widely known by the people who were there, the police that was on the scene, but then they put the lid on it. So they covered it up. They covered it up.
Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that preschool kids are playing ISIS games. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that the words "Pray to Allah or die" alongside an ISIS flag were spray painted on the side of a school. Integration of immigrants in Sweden has been so successful that an ISIS supporter was employed as an immigration officer. The Huffington Post claims that deadly crime has decreased over time in Sweden. The New York Times also claimed crime was decreasing. And that's fake news. Lethal violence has increased 29% since 2014. Sex crimes have doubled since 2012. Gun violence has increased 84% over the last 9 years. All the sources for those stats are in the description below. The Swedish government does not record the ethnicity of those involved in crime, reports the Huffington Post. Oh gee, I wonder why that is. I wonder why they stopped producing reports on this back in 2005. Could it possibly be because the 2005 report showed immigrants to be vastly overrepresented in crime stats? Could it be because immigrants were 5.5 times more likely to carry out rape? Could the lack of statistics relating to migrant crimes be anything to do with the fact that police have been ordered to cover them up? And if you don't believe these facts, or anything that I have to say, then listen to what an actual refugee living in Sweden has to say.
Donald Trump is not wrong about Sweden. This huge influx of migrants has been causing quite some problems. Sex crimes have increased severely. Bathhouses and music festivals, I mean, the reports for sex crimes on those have gone up by a lot. And in 80% of sex crime cases pertaining to bathhouses, this is the official police report, 80% of the perpetrators were newly arrived migrants. I mean, we're talking about grown migrants being put in the same schools as 13-year-old girls. The results are always the same. There's molestations, there's rape attempts, there's sexual harassment. It's crazy. What's happening in Sweden is nothing short of crazy. I live here, I can read Swedish. Unless we highlight the negatives, we can't change the negatives. Nothing is gonna get better if we just ignore problems and act like everything is fine. And don't give me that shit about Islamophobia, okay? I have a Muslim background. I don't have a problem with reasonable Muslims. I have a problem with shitty immigration policy. I have a problem with irresponsible politics and bad decisions by politicians. That's my problem. And now we're seeing these big media headlines about how Sweden has no clue what Trump is talking about, so he must just be a big old dummy. That's bullshit. Sweden knows exactly what Trump is talking about. If they were to see his whole speech in its full context, they could probably figure out what he's referring to. Forget last night in Sweden. What about the last couple of years in Sweden? Or the last decade in Sweden? They're not lying. There is a huge problem with crime and rapes and sex attacks, sexual assaults, molestations related to migrants.
You really want to pick a fight with us over immigration. And your example is Sweden. You really want to pretend that because Donald Trump made a gaffe, that means Sweden is totally safe and doesn't have a problem with mass immigration. Trump's only real mistake was to specify one night in Sweden. This shit is happening almost every night. And the Islamist-aligned left won't tell you about it because it shatters their utopian bubble that mass immigration works. It doesn't. And Sweden is a terrifying warning from Europe for America not to follow the same path. The left's big lie about mass immigration being beneficial is why people voted for Brexit and Trump. You can keep lying, you can keep virtue signaling about it, and we'll keep winning.
Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden.
So when you hear me, darling, can't you hear me?
Click the link below to subscribe to the channel, and for more breaking news go to Infowars.com.